With us now is one of the BuzzFeed journalists who broke this story, senior investigative reporter Jason Leopold, joining us on the phone now. Jason, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Let me start with Rudy Giuliani's reaction. He is telling NBC News this morning, if you believe Michael Cohen, I can get you a great deal on the Brooklyn Bridge. What's your response?
Sure. I'm not surprised by Mr. Giuliani's reaction to the report. However, I'll say that the information that we've obtained, that we've spent months investigating related to this, go beyond simply Michael Cohen and his statements. And as we reported, the information or that is in the hands of the FBI and special counsel include other documents and interviews with people.
Now, your colleague, who you wrote the story with, says that neither of you, when you talk about those documents, that you guys haven't actually seen them. You haven't seen the documents, the texts, the emails, et cetera. So how confident are you that they actually exist, that this is true?
I don't think that we've said that we haven't seen them, but I will say that I'm very confident that they exist.
Your colleague said on CNN this morning that you were briefed on these documents by those law enforcement sources that you referenced. Can you clarify for me sort of what the status is of that?
Sure. We over the course of a year, we've reported pretty extensively on the Trump Moscow project, and we have been. I'll just say that we've seen documents. We've been briefed on documents. We're very confident in our reporting.
That's what I'm sort of trying to get to here, Jason. The idea, because one thing we keep saying is, listen, if this is true, this has some serious implications, but you can't ignore the if this is true part.
Right. I completely understand that.
But you are confident in your story. It has sparked, as you say, it has sparked a lot of reaction, as I'm sure you've seen. Joaquin Castro saying the president must now resign or be impeached if this is true. Adam Schiff says we will do what's necessary to find out if it's true. Chris Murphy says it's time for Mueller to show Congress's cards before it's too late for them to do something. So where do you go next in your reporting? Have any avenues come open to you in the last 12 hours since this story broke that you're now digging in on?
Yeah, I mean, we're continuing in an effort to try to advance it, perhaps also where, trying to see how much we can get in terms of some of the color, if you will, with regard to some of these face-to-face briefings that Michael Cohen had with Donald Trump regarding the time that it took place during the campaign. We have a pretty good idea about that. So more or less establishing some of the color behind it and essentially trying to pry loose some of those documents so we can share it with the public.
Jason, as you are talking on the phone there, and you're on your phone, so I don't know if you've seen this, but the president has tweeted now for the first time about this story since you broke it, for the first time at least, about Michael Cohen.
That.
I think everyone who was on Twitter watched this morning. So he says, he cites Kevin Corke, who's a White House reporter for Fox News, talking about how Michael Cohen has already been convicted of perjury and fraud. And then the president adds, out of quotes here, this is his own words, he says, lying to reduce his jail time, watch father-in-law. So the president's implication here is that Michael Cohen is, again, not telling the truth. Just to clarify here, Michael Cohen was not actually convicted of perjury. He was convicted to lying to an official investigation. But, of course, if he, the lying to Congress piece of it would be problematic for the president if your story is true. So can you just talk through your reaction here to the president saying that Cohen is lying to reduce his jail time, watch father-in-law?
Sure. I mean, from the way I understand it, and having read the same sentencing memo and criminal information that you probably read, I mean, Michael Cohen has already been sentenced. I don't see that there's any indication from the Southern District of New York that he's going to receive a reduced sentence because he's already been sentenced to 3 years in prison. He's already agreed to cooperate with the special counsel. He's already stated that the special counsel, quote, knows all. That's a tweet from Michael Cohen. And we also understand that based on previous reporting from our colleagues in other media that, there's quite a bit of recordings that Michael Cohen has. I understand that, the attempts by the administration and the president himself to sort of shift the public's attention onto other areas. Michael Cohen's father-in-law.
Right.
To be honest, I don't really understand what that means, but it's also understood that in the raid of Michael Cohen's offices, that the FBI and now the special counsel had obtained quite a bit of evidence, emails, text messages. I mean, just in the reporting we did earlier or last year in the spring about Trump Tower Moscow, I mean, we obtained every text message that Michael Cohen exchanged with Felix Sater about this project. And in those text messages, he is discussing briefing Trump about this. So I think that the denials by the president himself are leave more to be desired by simply a 240-character tweet.
Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. Why don't you subscribe? It's really easy. Just click on that button down there. And for more news from MSNBC, click on any of these videos here for the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more videos from MSNBC with our newsletters. Head over to msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up.